If I can go back and tell my younger self just one thing, it would be this video right here. Today, I'm sharing you the absolute must-haves that you would need to have as a beginner instructor and what steps you need to take to teach music students. Hey there, and welcome back to Jenni Marie Studios. My name is Jennifer, and this is where music and creativity come together in the most unexpected ways. Today, I'm taking my video a little bit differently than I mainly do. I'm taking a little bit more personal approach and also hopefully a little bit more purposeful approach, because this video is mainly for those who are beginner instructors, or what steps you can take to start teaching music students and or even sewing students. Hopefully that will help you to encourage you to gain your clients and what steps you should take before or during your beginning journey as an instructor. I'm going to tell you my story. Now wait, before you click off, I promise you the reason I'm telling you my story is for a purpose. Hopefully this story will inspire you and the reason why it comes out, and also have you think about how you started your journey as a musician or a soloist. So ironically, I actually started my piano journey first before I played my flute. And it was just about when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I explored a lot of instruments. So I did harmonica, guitar, xylophone in school. I even did some violin, and I just didn't quite grasp on the instrument until I found piano. I just loved everything about it. But I wasn't quite intrigued about a certain person or that kind of drawed me into, or music drawed me into piano. It was just the piano itself. I really enjoyed the instrument and how it works and how you navigate it and everything about it. One day I sat down on the piano, and when I did, I had a huge vision that came up in my head, and I was on front and center on this massive piano, which I now know is a concert grand piano, and it was massive. It was right in the center stage, and I was there performing in front of a crowd of people. That image just gave me peace. It wasn't just about performing and being on stage and being up front and center. It just gave me a solace sense of peace, of relaxation, and I was one and whole with myself. Playing the piano felt like I was stepping into a whole nother world, a world that no one can touch or reach me, and a place that I felt safe within myself. I know this might not resonate with anyone, but it came to the point to where I actually learned more about Jesus Christ, and I built that relationship with God and Jesus because of being in that safe place. It became clear to me that music wasn't just a gift, it was a true calling and purpose that I had for my life. So that brings me on into the reason why I tell my story, is because there is a calling that you have, or a purpose that you have, that you need to make sure you identify, and that the only way for you to identify that and how to seek it out is to ask yourself, what is your story? Where is your background? Where did you come from? How did you have a come to Jesus moment and said to yourself, wow, this is what I should do? And it doesn't even have to be in music. It could be in anything related to what made you come to a moment where you had that purpose and you knew deep down that this is what you should be doing. What is your driving force of why you want to become an instructor or why you want to teach others? Because it's not just for people who just want to teach or just make money, because this is not instructing students is not where the money is at. So there has to be a larger purpose and reason why, and the only way you can find that out is to find your story. Think about your childhood, think about where you came from and of how you got your lessons and everything like that. That is a huge big picture as to why you have a purpose and why you want to become an instructor. Finding your purpose is not just or identity awareness for yourself. It's also awareness for your students, because that story can also lead your students to identifying what their journey is and how they got started, and that they will continue to remember as they go on through their musicianship. Your next question is, who are you teaching? This section is where you have to decide within yourself what level of students you want to teach. And the only way that you can actually get there is based off of your musicianship. So if you are at a beginner level musicianship, not that you can't give piano lessons or some sort in that way, but you can only start and teach students at a beginner level. But if you had a doctoral music and music education, for example, you can get, of course, more students, more classes, to a point to where you actually teach collegiate level in musicianship. So I teach beginner to intermediate level, and the only reason why I teach beginner to intermediate is because that's what I'm comfortable with. I know myself and my personality pretty well, and I'm actually very comfortable around children. And so even my videos, I sound like a child because I mostly am talking and teaching children, and children, not to the aspect of, under, of course, I've taught younger children, but I'm talking about middle and high schoolers as well. Your audience is important, and depending on the platform that you use to be able to reach out, you can reach, for example, like on YouTube, you can reach out to millions of people to be able to see and hear your perspective and your level of experience. Just remember that your authenticity matters more than perfection. So I want you to really kind of grasp in the idea of not even if you don't have a student, okay? I just want you to envision yourself. What does it feel like if you were with a student, or now that you know who you are teaching and what level of student you're trying to teach? How would that feel? Would you be close to them side by side, making sure you're pressing on their fingers in the right hand position, or making sure that they have their flute angled correctly, or that you're modeling them how your embouchure should look? What does that look like to you? And are you actually doing it online where you're in front of the keyboard and you just have your keyboard set up? What does your lessons look like? How do you want it to be like? Are you sitting across from them and just with your computer and making notes? What does it look like? There's so many different ways on how your lesson should look and how it should feel, and that's also based off of how you experienced it. I like to use a one-on-one personal experience where you're actually sitting beside the student and you're actually giving them and modeling them for them so that they can be able to see everything. You want to be able to do some form of modeling for your student because you want to be the best representation of yourself and for themselves as musicians. So just think about, how does that look for you? Everyone's different. What do your lessons look and feel like for the experience that you want to have for you and your student? What are you teaching? This means you have to plan ahead and you have to gather up resources to be able to make sure you're supporting your students' level. Now, lessons, they came back in the day. They're actually, if you actually look at composers like Beethoven, Haydn, Mozart, a lot of those old time lessons, they actually received lessons. They were either an understudy or a pupil or a scholar in some form of one of them. They actually were understudied, and for them to do this, they had to actually go abroad, and it was considered an enrichment. The people could not just go abroad. Only people who could do that was of the rich. And so getting lessons, you have to understand as an instructor and even as a student, receiving lessons is an enrichment. It is something that is going to help support and push students on to better themselves. So I like to use a lesson book and theory book. There are different repertoires and different pedagogies that you can use. Of course, as a musician, there's music theory, sight singing, ear training, and performance. Go into your local music store and that has these books available to you, and just sit down and just kind of look through what publisher you want to use. If you can't understand it yourself, then why do it? So find a book and find the right research. That means you have to research. You got to go out there and look for books. I love to go to thrift books and thrift stores. In Texas, we have half price books, and I love buying the books there because for my students, so that they can get it at a better price compared to full price. So just find the books and the publishers that you want for each of your grade level or each of your students, whatever that is, however that looks, okay? So, and I recommend providing a music theory and a lesson book, or a music theory and performance book. Sight reading and ear training, those can go hand in hand at any time of your lesson, and you can just kind of incorporate them anytime that you provide the lesson. So just make sure you don't forget about those though too as well. How are you going to structure your lessons? Does that mean, are you going to start out with a warm-up? Are you going to start out with long tones? Can you kind of break it down to how many minutes? What things or techniques that you want to focus on? For example, I'll grab my notebook and I will say, okay, at 5 minutes, I'm going to do long tone exercises with the metronome. Okay, now I'm going to practice tonguing a little bit, double tonguing on this next 10 minutes. And then the next 10 minutes, make sure my fingers are positioned, focus on my fingers, make sure they're aligned correctly. When I actually give instructions to students, I actually go through and follow through with the book, which is very helpful to have. So you have to have some kind of backbone to help you. For me, the lessons books are what helps me to be able to push my students on and to be able to help to encourage them to make sure that they're moving on with their lesson. So my last tip is practical tools and supplies. Before you begin lessons, it's essential to make sure you gather these essential tools, not necessarily, but I do encourage, and they're very basic tools that you can be able to find that I recommend to a student. So of course you have your instrument that is in working condition. Yes, I have had students who would try to get lessons with me and they did not have an instrument at home, and that's all cool and fine and dandy, but I'm a very active person, and so that means you have to actually be learning and then reinforcing yourself by practicing and following it through until we meet again the following week. And so that means you have to have an instrument at home that is in working condition. Instrument is important. Other supplies are, of course, metronome. All of my flute players, especially in high school, I recommend them and always require them to have a metronome. Music stand and a chair, essential for any instrument that is outside of the piano. Webcam or a laptop. You might be giving out online lessons, so you or the student is going to have one, either one of those. Either most phones are going to have cameras. Most laptops are going to have cameras as well. So kind of you're going to have to know and make sure that they have those resources. If you are using online platforms, so I like to use Zoom for my music lessons online, and then of course headphones, speakers if that's necessary, and your essential things, a notebook and a pencil. Having these essential tools are just the basics. They're just the basic things, and they can use them for their entire career as a musician. I've had my metronome since I was in college. I got it then, and I've had it since 2007. So it's been over 20 years now that I've had my metronome, and it's still in great working condition. And so these are things that they will be able to use for entirety of your musician life. Whether your journey began with a dream like it did for me, or simple moments on the keyboards, remember your story matters, and it will open doors for your students in ways that you can't even imagine. If you enjoyed this video, then please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. I would really love to hear your perspective in the comments box below, and what maybe can encourage you or what has encouraged you into your musicianship. Until next time.